And the other thing that springs to mind is embodying the actual words. So, for example, with the example of I am happy, if I sat here with my shoulders down, my head down, a grumpy face, a slouching, and, no air in my belly, just kind of flopped here. And I'm happy, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. It doesn't matter how many times I say it. It's just never going to be true.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I, stand up or at least sit up in the chair, shoulders back, chest up, air in my lungs, smile on my face, I am happy. It's just that embodiment of the word happy really makes it so much more true.
I'm Shreya Parekh, and this is Empower Her, the podcast for women over 35 who want to take control of their health and wealth. Join me and my guests as we share insights, resources, and ideas to help you break free, learn more about yourself, and live your best life while closing the gender gaps. Hit follow to stay connected and sign up for free emails on the Empower Her website to supercharge your journey. Ever wondered what it truly means to be body confident and how to get there? Well, join me today as I chat with Justine Blanchard, a body confidence coach and Reiki master practitioner. Justine helps people unlock total body confidence by integrating physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. With her unique blend of personalized coaching and Reiki, she guides clients to discover the missing pieces of their body confidence journey. With years of experience in the wellness space, Justine is here to share how you too can cultivate a deeper, more holistic sense of confidence from within. Justine, welcome to the Empower Her podcast. It's great to have you on. I'm excited to have this conversation because it's about body confidence. And
yes.
When you hear the term body confidence, for me anyway, I automatically assume my body image and the way I look, whether I'm, look in a particular way, maybe kind of magazine style look and things like that. But I know after speaking to you, it's not just about that. So please, could you talk a little bit about your journey from what you were doing to what you're doing now? That would be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, just to mention what you were just talking about, it is that thing and it's not that thing and it's all of the things.
Yeah.
So I think that will really come out in our conversation. So yes, thank you for having me. I'm Justine Blanchard and I'm a body confidence and wellness coach, as well as lots of other things. I wear lots of other hats too that may come out in our conversation as well. I started my current career, my current journey as the owner manager of a women's gym. It was a fitness franchise called Curves, Fitness for Women. And it was there that I learned a lot about the physical body in terms of exercise training, fitness training. I learned a lot about nutrition and coaching, setting goals, mindset, things like that. So it was sort of the start to where I am now, because I was working with lots and lots of different women of all different shapes and sizes, all different physical abilities, there for all different reasons, lots of different goals. But when I reflect on my journey from there, and when I reflect on the conversations that I had with all of those women over those years, is ultimately, no matter what brought them through the door, we all just want to feel good. And feeling good in a body confidence sense, or any sense really, again, means something different to everybody. So it's one of the things, it's all of the things, it's kind of piecing it all together. So that's how I got to where I am right now. What led me to Curves actually was, I recognized the brand because you can hear in my accent, I grew up in the US. So I recognized the brand and I walked in. I had tried many different types of exercise programs in the past. I tried many different diet programs in the past. And nothing quite felt right. I joined different gyms, I joined different dance classes, and I can really remember thinking back at the time that, even if I don't go to those memberships, at least I have the membership. And I kind of justified it in my head as my, forgive the language, but my fat tax.
Yeah.
Like that's what I called it back then. I would never say that now, and I wouldn't encourage that now either. but that was the mindset that I was in. So from my own point of view, I went on loads and loads of different paths and journeys of self-discovery, and with my body, and at that stage it really was all about physical body. I didn't really know much about the rest. Now in body confidence coaching and in the world that I'm in, it's very, very much a balance between the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the soul body. But back then, when I was trying different diets, different exercise programs, different whatever to try and find the right thing, it was all to satisfy my physical body. And I was never quite satisfied because I didn't understand the missing piece. And it wasn't until much, much later that I figured out what the missing piece was. And that was all the internal stuff, the mental body, the emotional body, the soul body. It's the Reiki, it's the mindfulness, it's the self-talk, it's affirmations. It's absolutely everything that we use, all of the tools that we use to connect to ourselves.
Yeah, no, that is fantastic, because I really wanted to get at that. When, in my view, before I met you, in my view, when someone says to me body confidence, it's the way my body looks. And speaking to you now, I realize the way my body looks and the way I feel about my body has a lot to do with other factors. Of course, we know about societal factors, things we see in, magazines, on, in the cover of all the, famous magazines, all the women that look flawless and super slim and no imperfections, which probably isn't the case anyway, but that's what we perceive. And then we absorb that and think, well, that's how I need to look, or that's how I want to look. But there's a whole load of other stuff that connects, like you said, the mind and the soul. So can you talk a bit about that, and, kind of go into a little bit about what is body confidence and why does that matter?
Absolutely. So body confidence is to me, body confidence is a balance between how we feel in our physical body, our mental body, our emotional body, and our soul body. And for some, that all might sound in alignment. Some people might hear that and think, oh yeah, that sounds about right. Some people might be like, soul body, like, where is she going with this? Are you kind of getting into some kind of real woo-woo kind of spaces?
Yeah.
And yes, I am, in a way, but also no, I'm not, because it really is all connected. So for me, body confidence means an alignment between those four pillars. And why is it important? Because when we are more confident in our bodies, when we are more confident in the skin that we're in, we do life better. So life coaching is a recognizable term. I don't call myself a life coach. I call myself a body confidence coach. A lot of the tools and techniques that I use are similar to what a life coach would use. So yes, I'm a life coach as well. And that's the thing is I genuinely believe that when we have that balance, when we are in balance and harmony with ourselves and more confident with ourselves, we do life better. And the way that this all sort of unfolded for me, if you will, this missing piece of the puzzle, started with mindfulness, went then into hypnotherapy as a client, not a practitioner. I had hypnotherapy sessions. Then led me to Reiki, and like one thing after the other started unfolding this journey. And it was each time another piece started unfolding on my journey, it was like these light bulbs going off. And then the other, for myself, and then the other light bulbs that were going off were then reflecting on the conversations that I was having with all the ladies back in the gym.
Right.
And it was just like, you know, light, pop, 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 like all of these things starting to connect. And it was just like, how did I not know this before? And like, how can I not share this with the world? Everybody needs to know this.
It's quite amazing, actually. I feel like, you know, by giving your mind some space to think and, you know, figure things out, you know, getting some quiet time, amazing things can happen. And I feel like, you know, that's where the magic kind of starts, that kind of, you know, that light bulb moment, because you're constantly on the go, taking in information, talking to people, responding, you know, this, that, and the other, and your brain never quietens down, or never really, unless you're sleeping. But when you're sleeping, of course, I feel like it's a little bit different to when you're kind of awake but having quiet time. And it's in that process that the magic has kind of happened, and has that process led you on to something else, which then led you on to something else, which is great, really. I feel like that's not the solution, but that's kind of part of, it's a big part of something that people should be doing, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think for me, it was all about divine timing. And I use the term divine timing really carefully, because again, somebody listening to this, you know, might hear soul body, might hear divine timing, might think, oh, you know, this is now starting to get into the realms of religion and real, like, deep spirituality and all that stuff. And it's not, you know, it really genuinely is same as right place, right time, you know, but allowing for oneself to actually be open and to recognize what is available to them, and what is what will resonate with that particular person. So very much like what you just said about, you know, the magic happens when you quiet the mind. So when I was the owner manager of Curves, I can give a shout out to my friend Nina, who is my mindfulness instructor. She was a member of Curves. We networked together. We knew each other for a long time at that period. Excuse me. And she invited me to her intro to mindfulness course many times. I can't even say how many times she invited. I don't know. And each time I was just like, Nina, like, I don't know what you're talking about. What is this meditation? What is this mindfulness? Just, you know, I've got too much going on. I'm too busy. And, you know, I wasn't consciously thinking this particular thought, but I think at the time I was just like, I don't know who I'll be without my busy. You know, so reflecting on it now, that's kind of the thought that I think I must have been having, but I wasn't conscious to that particular thought, you know. So I was always like, no. And then I sold Curves in February 2019. And that summer, that spring, I think, Nina asked me again, will you come to the mindfulness intro course? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And I went, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was a group, an intro. It was like a 3-hour session. It was a group. There were 4 of us. It was incredible. Loved the ladies in the group. Loved what we did in the mindfulness. And she offered us all, you know, a course, and in true me style at that time, because although I had started opening up, but was a little bit kind of thing, I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that in 8 weeks. I'm doing that in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And bless her, she adapted it, and I did do it in 4 weeks, which was way too quick. So anybody who's watching this and thinking about doing mindfulness, take the whole 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But it really started opening the door. It's like, you know, creeping out the door at that stage. And then I discovered Reiki. I'd heard of Reiki for a long time. It was in my awareness, but didn't really know much about it, and then I met somebody who was doing the Reiki 1 workshop, excuse me, and I looked in my diary and it was the only day in that entire month that I didn't have something going on. So I was like, ooh, okay, this must be a sign, so kind of jumped straight into that. And then it just is, as I said, things just started unfolding. And because I allowed it to come in, I allowed myself to be open and to see what self-development, what self-help, what self-healing. I allowed myself to see what was available to me and just grabbed onto some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's the thing, it's being open to receiving different ways of doing things, because we often get stuck in, no, this is what I know and this is what I'm going to carry on doing. But until you open yourself up to different opportunities, not just opportunities, if you're looking at yourself and thinking, I have this problem, or I'm feeling like crap, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling hormonal, whatever your problem is, there is a way forward, but you just have to be open to trying different things that you may not have even come across, because I think that is the key, and different things will work for different people.
Absolutely.
It's not a cut and paste. It's
No.
a very personal thing. Just about body confidence then. So I want to ask you, what kinds of things are people questioning about themselves? That's what I want to know. And how do you guide them through that, really? So, if I came to you as an example, I'm not happy with my body shape because I'm overweight, or I'm underweight, or I don't feel strong, I feel really weak, I am really weak, look how, small my muscles are, I don't have any muscles. I mean, what kind of things are they? That's one thing in terms of body confidence. And how do you navigate people through that? What kind of things can they do to be more confident? Because confidence comes from doing, I believe. It's not a case of, oh, I'm confident now. You just wake up one morning really super confident.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, exactly. Bloody hell, that would be bloody amazing if that happened. But it's not. It doesn't work like that. For maybe there might be one person out there that happens to, but not many. So can you talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, so a lot of the people that I've worked with so far have actually been on a very similar journey to me, whereby they've tried lots of different diets, lots of different exercise programs, they've tried lots of different things, and they're ready to try something else. And and a lot of the clients that I've worked with have actually been very much like a mirror to me as a reminder of some of the things that I've journeyed through and that I've worked through. And I think that's a similar thing to a lot of coaches, because, especially there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of us out there, and we all specialize in something a little bit different. We niche somewhere, but I think ultimately a lot of us niche in the thing that we had to work through ourselves. Right. So a lot of the people that I work with do tend to be on a very similar journey to where I was at. I also have a perspective where some of my clients come from the physical body side of things, and it's sort of my role to help them piece together the missing pieces of the mental, emotional, soul body stuff. So might gently introduce the mindfulness, the meditation, the visualization, Reiki healing, something like that, in a softly, depending on that person. Again, very much in the way that it worked for me, because conversely to that, I've worked with people who are very, very spiritual, who, have spiritual jobs, who spend a lot of time, floating up here in meditation and doing like lots of things. They might do some physical body connection with maybe yoga or Pilates, maybe. But generally they're kind of more on the inner work, self-development kind of journey, and then realize suddenly, oh, I have this physical body, this shell, this home that's not quite right, in whatever way that means for them. So the way that I work is very much helping people to piece those pillars together. So in that example, where somebody might already be working on themselves in terms of healing or self-development or something like that, and they're not happy with what they see in the mirror, from my fitness background, I can help to create fitness programs. I can help to, get to the confidence and the goals about maybe getting into the gym or getting into a dance class or something like that. My role as a coach, and even my role when I was a fitness instructor full time, is not to tell anybody what to do, but to help people to find the thing that they're going to enjoy doing so they stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me that you want a PT and you want a fitness program for this goal, I can write you out the different programs. I could tell you how often to go to the gym, what kind of weights to lift, what kind of machines to use, what kind of classes to go to. If I tell you to go to a Zumba class 3 times a week and you absolutely hate that music and you hate dancing, you might go a couple of times because you've paid me to give you this advice, but then you're going to start hating it. You're going to start resenting it. You'll start resenting me. And quite frankly, I like people to like me. So I think it's really important as a coach in any kind of capacity to help identify the likes, the dislikes, the things that somebody's going to stick to. Because ultimately, after the 6 sessions with me, you're going to want to have built those habits. You're going to want to continue doing those things, not just do it in the 6 sessions and not do it for me, but to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people that have, so many people try so many fitness programs or diets and I don't know, supplements and this and that to kind of change the way their body is, I guess, because that's probably the end result that they're looking for, either, it is to look different physically in some shape or form, I suppose. And what doesn't happen is to look inward to see that actually I've tried all these different things, it's not working. Why isn't it working? That's one thing. And secondly, what can I do about the fact that it's not working? With body confidence, is it actually people with women who have got issues with their body in some shape or form?
It could be that too. It could be that too. They're from coming at it from the physical perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. If somebody is like obese and unhealthy and really needs to lose weight and move and exercise and everything because they have health concerns, and that's a real thing. Obviously there are lots of tools and techniques and methods and ways in which to coach that person to potentially lose weight, be healthier, and in that regard. I think where it comes to this style of coaching and coaching in general is to find out what the person needs and wants and help them to get to their goal. Also get there with self-compassion, self-awareness, kindness to oneself. Because if somebody is 20 stone and wants to be 12 stone, that's not going to happen in 6 months.
No.
It may not even happen in a couple of years, in a healthy way without, surgery or, pills or all kinds of, unhealthy methods. not to say that it's impossible, but it's improbable, and improbable like by living a regular lifestyle, on a day-to-day basis, and, with a happy life of being kind to oneself. I mean, if you think about dropping that kind of weight that quickly, you're not going to be very kind to your body, or,
Yeah.
your mental body, your emotional body during that time. Again, not to say that it's completely impossible, but, I think one needs to really understand the limitations that one might have in a certain method, and why they're doing what they're doing. I think it's really important that somebody understands like where their baseline is, and how to get to where they're going. But as I said, with that kindness, with that compassion. And if somebody wants to do a weight loss program, or in a fitness program with me, I'll help them to do that. I'll be their cheerleader, I'll be their accountability partner. If it's purely about nutrition, honestly, it's not my bag, so I would refer them to somebody who was a lot more of an expert in that. So there, and this is the other thing is when you're working with a client, is to develop that relationship whereby you have to have that real mutual respect and real mutual understanding about what the goals are. And if you work well together as well, I mean, there are people who are going to be more suited to other coaches or other programs, depending on what their goals are. So, so I think it's also really important for a coach and client to have those initial conversations to make sure that they're really on the same page and really understanding what it is that's realistic, and how they can work together as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, when you talked about the body part in terms of losing weight or nutrition, it really, it sounds like it starts from a space of, you need to understand why you're feeling the way you are about the issue that you're feeling, whether it's to do with, I feel too big, or I feel too small, or I feel too weak, or I feel like I'm not attractive because I've got this on my face, or whatever that might be. And then getting to that root cause, and then discovering you can do these things to help you, incorporating the mind, the body, and the soul. And then, like you said, if it's, changing your nutrition habits and guiding people on their nutrition, obviously you're not a nutritionist. So it would be a case of, referring on to a nutritionist, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to solve all your problems, and you're going to, it's more of a discovery process, really.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. And I think that can really hone in on the root cause of things.
I think it also goes back to what we were talking about before, about being open to trying new things. And the word you just used, discovery, as if, during these sessions, various different things may unfold, and recommendations to go in different directions, might happen too. And also what you just said about, mindset and getting to the root cause of why something is, like I've worked with a couple of ladies who've told me that, in their lives have been, say a larger lady, and then a smaller lady, and larger and smaller. And actually, when losing the weight and when physically becoming smaller, if one doesn't do a mindset shift on lifestyle change and the reason why perhaps they got to be a larger lady in the first place, I can think of an example where somebody said to me that she intentionally put all the weight back on because when she saw herself in the mirror as a smaller lady, she did not recognize herself. She didn't know who she was. So there's an identity thing there, as well as, like somebody who is, say a single mother who spends a lot of time with their teenage daughter, and then the teenage daughter goes off to university, and now she's just like, who am I now?
Yeah.
Like there's an identity thing there. There's an identity thing where with somebody who maybe loses weight too quickly, who hasn't done any of the work about why she gained the weight in the first place, and then doesn't recognize herself or know who she is in that new body. Because, for her, that was a brand new body.
I you know what, I really love this approach. I think it's great because it just connects all the pieces, and it's not just a quick fix solution. Oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to put on weight, whatever your goal might be in whatever shape or form. It's not a case of, okay, I'm just going to go to the gym and do X, Y, and Z. It's actually not that. And now I see, even within myself, when I have these grand goals of, all right, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week because I want to achieve X goal, and I never bloody do it. I do it some like you say, some weeks, and then I'll just kind of, it will just disappear, and then I'll try and get back up and do it. But it's really connecting with myself, and that is the key. What advice would you give to women? Like, what would be your one or two simple steps for women to kind of think about when they are lacking the confidence with their body image, or just want that confidence?
Okay, so the first 2 things that spring to mind is to find the thing that one enjoys, to actually stick to it.
Right.
So if it is going to the gym 5 times a week, and you're going to the gym 5 times a week because you genuinely enjoy going to the gym 5 times a week, brilliant. Mm-hmm. Do that. It's great. Da, da, da. The flip side of that is if somebody is kind of that like overachiever type mindset, and then goes to the gym loads, overdoes it there, then ends up with an injury or doesn't compensate with the right nutrition, so there could be a little bit of a double edge there as well. So, but it is definitely to find the thing, whatever it is, so that you're able to actually stick to it. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is to work on language, to work on the self-talk, to work on reframing, to work on affirmations. So I know that that's sort of 3 things rolled into one.
Yeah.
But if you think about language as the overall theme to that suggestion, it's so important. I mean, self-talk is just so important. I mean, we would never speak to our friends or our neighbors or anybody else the way that we talk to ourselves most of the time. And when we catch ourselves saying certain things to ourselves, it can be really surprising. I mean, for example, I often give a workshop and a talk on affirmations. And sometimes in certain environments, when I give this talk on affirmations, I can feel the eye rolls, and people are like, oh, affirmations. Oh. But I always start with like asking the room who thinks that affirmations can also be negative. Or second sentence is, do you think affirmations are always positive? Most people say yes. Do you recognize that affirmations can also be negative? And there's usually some quizzical kind of faces in the room there. And the answer is yes, affirmations absolutely can also be negative, because anything that we say after I am is something that we're affirming to our body. It's the thing that our cells are hearing. So throughout the day, we can often say to ourselves, oh, so dumb. I'm so dumb. I'm such an idiot. I look really terrible on this. I can't believe I did that. That was so dumb. And what's she going to think about this? I'm such an idiot. it's like our bodies and our subconscious, they don't know that we're not actually trying to affirm those things to ourselves. And I think when we really become more conscious of the language that we're using to speak to and about ourselves, particularly to ourselves, that's a really good start, being conscious of the language.
Yeah, that is a really big one, actually. I know we talked about the affirmation thing before now, and honestly, I always associated affirmations with saying positive things, in the sense that I know, obviously, you try and say positive things, but I never thought of it as I'm affirming negative things, because sometimes, yes, I do say, oh God, I'm such an idiot. I'm so forgetful, or I'm so clumsy. That's another thing I constantly say about myself, because I think I am. And then I get even more clumsy, and I never thought about affirmations on the flip side. And it's so true. You can affirm anything, positive or negative, but you just need to make the choice. Which one are you going to affirm, the positive or the negative? I guess. Yeah. I want to ask a quick question. What about when you say things like, "Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm only joking." Like, because I have these conversations with like, sometimes, like, my husband, and he'll make a comment like, oh, like it could be like a negative kind of thing about himself or something, and he'll be like, I'll be like, oh, that's a bit negative, because I'm just joking, I'm not serious. What about those kinds of things?
Sure, I've never really thought about it in that context, but I suppose if I'm to really think about it intuitively, I want to say that it's almost like a little bit of a self-coach in that way, I guess. Like, oh, I've recognized that I've just said something. I'm going to say something to try and counteract it. So I want to say that it hasn't sunk in in such a bad way, if you're kind of auto-correcting yourself quick enough.
Because I feel like you're still being negative, like, even when you say, I'm just joking, it's still like, but you still said it, and there must be a reason why you're still saying that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we are like still human. I mean, none of us are totally perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And, we still have like, even if you're aware of your self-talk and aware of your inner critic and inner critics, there's usually fairly few in there. That doesn't necessarily mean that they just vanish. Naming them or being aware of them doesn't completely make them vanish. But I suppose it's a question of, well, yeah, I think I like the term autocorrect. Recognizing that you've done it and try and reframe it or flip it before it really sinks in, maybe.
Yeah. Have you got any like tips on affirming, like how, like, for people that aren't used to doing it, saying, reframing and saying positive things, and how, what tips would you give to kind of start that process?
So the JFDI, number one. It's funny because I was having a conversation about an affirmations workshop at the gym not that long ago, and these two women, they were like, "Oh, that is so not very British." I can't possibly say all these nice things about myself. That is not British. And do you know what? It's valid. I mean, that's completely valid. And any of these comments or feelings, or, any comments, any feelings, any thoughts, any beliefs, they're valid. They can be changed, but they're certainly valid. And actually, the course that I did, which my certification is with the Institute of Body Confidence Coaches, run by Astrid Longhurst. And whilst I always talk very much about the 4 pillars of physical, mental, emotional, and soul body, there were actually 5 modules to the course, which was cultural body. So there was a module in the course about cultural body, and it was very much also, as a coach, is to recognize that there are certain cultural references and cultural beliefs and things that are, you know, I mean, we can get into a whole nother conversation about nature versus nurture, you know, but bringing the cultural body into the mix is touching on that a little bit. So, so to answer your question about tips, and I immediately, you know, joked and said JFDI, which hopefully listeners know what that means, is
for those that don't.
Oh, just effing do it.
Just in case.
Just effing do it is JFDI. Yeah, is to start small. Is to start small, is you know, if one really can't come up with 5 nice things to say about themselves, starting with I am, go to the internet, Google affirmations for abundance, affirmations for body confidence, affirmations for self-belief, affirmations for ... whatever it is that you want to boost in yourself, you know, whether it be your confidence or your love for yourself or your ability to communicate, or, you know, affirmations for anything. The internet will give you a wealth of information. So, but that wouldn't necessarily be starting small. When I say start small, I mean literally 3 words: I am something. You know, so I am great, I am awesome, I am happy, I am brilliant, I am abundant, I am whatever it is that you want to feel in that moment. And if it's absolutely, completely brand new to you, it probably will feel a bit weird. It'll feel a bit weird. It'll feel a bit silly. It'll feel a little bit wrong. It'll feel like you're lying to yourself sometimes, you know, but the more you use your own words and your own language, as long as they're positive, then the more that, you know, it'll start being believable. And also you can add like a bit of a couple of somatic practices to it. So somatic practices are using your physical body in the practice. So two that spring to mind is, number 1, if somebody is saying affirmations and they feel like lies and they don't feel true and they don't feel like, you know, then just kind of eyes closed, a couple of breaths in, hands on chest or stomach or somewhere on the physical body, and just recognizing where in the body it might feel untrue. So if you say, just say, well, use I am happy. So close your eyes, hands on body somewhere, I am happy. And then just do a little body scan and see like where that feels uncomfortable. And then that's an invitation from your body to see why does it feel uncomfortable to say that. And then you're kind of then adding in a few more senses there. You're adding in touch as well as the thought, to kind of really feel on your physical body where it might feel a little bit untrue. And then you can kind of, you know, send the breath to that part of the body, send some love to that part of the body, and then keep trying the affirmations. There's also another somatic practice with affirmations is tapping, EFT tapping. So I'm not sure if you or your listeners are familiar with tapping, but that's the technique, emotional freedom technique, where people tap on the side of their hands, the side of their eyes, eyebrow, lip. And, you know, there are people who are expert practitioners in EFT who can create whole routines for people with the affirmations. And the other thing that springs to mind is embodying the actual words. So, for example, with the example of I am happy, if I sat here with my shoulders down, my head down, a grumpy face, you know, a slouching, and, you know, no air in my belly, just kind of flopped here, and I'm happy, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. It doesn't matter how many times I say it, it's just never going to be true. Whereas, you know, if I, you know, stand up or at least sit up in the chair, shoulders back, chest up, air in my lungs, smile on my face, I am happy. It's just that embodiment of the word happy really makes it so much more true. So I think that's beginner affirmations 101.
Yeah.
Start small, make it your own words, and embody it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's great. It's almost, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a bit like say you're not feeling happy for whatever reason, but you're affirming to yourself, I am happy in the way that you've described, sitting up straight and really, with a smile on your face. It's almost a little bit like fake it until you make it kind of thing.
In a way,
it's like a lot of people say, fake it till you make it. But I know, like you said, it probably feels odd saying that I am happy or I am X, whatever that thing is, when you're not feeling that way. But you have to keep having and saying those positive things to kind of get to the next stage, I guess, or for the things to come to you to get you out of that space.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, finding the thing that one enjoys, whether it's a physical thing or mental, emotional, soul, body connection activity, something that one enjoys. So some people really like journaling. Some people don't. Some people like writing poetry. Some people think, would never be able to even know where to start with that. Some people like drawing, some people like dancing, some people like creative dancing. I've been to a couple of chakra dancing classes, which was really fun, but also was felt really, really silly at first, so really had to get out of my head and into my body to start enjoying the experience, and even after that, I know I loved it, but I kind of think, oh, I've done it a couple of times now, not really my thing. I probably won't go back to that. But if I ever spoke to somebody who kind of expressed an interest in creativity, creative dance or whatever, I'd be like, oh, try this, so it really, really is about just finding the thing or the things that help to connect. And, I think everybody talks about, or a lot of people talk about getting out into nature, and getting out into nature really satisfies so many of the senses, and gardening as an example. Some people think, oh, I'm not green fingered or green thumbed, I could never do anything out in my garden. Whereas lots of people think, oh, gardening is great because, you have your start, middle, and end, and you kind of see where you started. You kind of get that sense of achievement for doing the thing in the garden. You're in that space, you're outdoors, all that stuff. Whereas other people might find gardening really frustrating because they thought it might end up a certain way and it didn't. So I just think, no matter what it is, to find the thing that helps us to connect with ourselves, and as long as you're, not harming yourself or anybody around you physically or emotionally, then, find the thing that works and stick to it, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a process, you're not always going to find the thing straight away. It can be trial and error, but that's the beauty of it, I think. Instead of, focusing on, right, this is the only thing and this is the only thing that's going to work. If it doesn't work, it's fine. It's okay. There are so many other things you can try, I guess.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Justine.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the Empower podcast. It's been great to have you on. I feel like it's helped me, this conversation.
Good.
No, absolutely. In terms of, the whole affirmation thing, definitely language isn't just about affirmations. And I think the starting point really is, like you said, language is so important. So, for everyone listening, just tune in to the language you're speaking to yourself. And, it's not like a woo-woo kind of thing. It's, how do you speak? Because if you're speaking to yourself and you in a certain way, would you speak the same way to your best friend. And if you wouldn't, then don't speak to yourself like that. It's great. Yeah. I didn't really think about it on that level, but it's good. Any kind of last minute tip? Because I feel like you got some great I'm learning from myself.
What else? Stopping in the day to breathe a couple of times a day. That's a really good one. It only takes. Actually, I was, again, another shout out to my friend Nina. She reminded me of this the other day. So for those on the recording, I've got my non-dominant hand in the air, and I'm taking my dominant hand and just tracing my fingers with the 5 breaths. So kind of take from the base of your hand to your thumb on a breath in, and breathe out as you come down your thumb, and breathe in as you go up your forefinger, kind of breath out, and then up the middle finger and down. Because I think a lot of the time people might say, oh, just stop and take 5 breaths.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, sounds good. But then like you kind of stop to do your 5 breaths, and you think, oh, am I on breath 3? Am I on breath 4? Am I over? Have I gone to breath 7? And gosh, I started thinking about something else. And
yeah.
But actually, if you trace your fingers, then you're kind of getting another sense, and you're getting your physical body involved in like a mental soul body activity. So really making it multi-sensory there, I think. And just remember to move your body. If you're somebody who is sat at a desk 8 hours a day, don't be sat at the desk 8 hours a day. Get up every hour. Set an alarm on your phone to get up every hour to do your 5 breaths. Just move, connect, breathe. Yeah. What else do you want? I don't know.
No, that's it. I'm so glad I asked you that last question. I love the hand. I think that's great. Because I often get distracted, and I think, hold on, what am I on? Or my mind went somewhere else, and then I forget, or I just don't know at what stage I'm at. But I think that's brilliant. I love the fact that because you're connecting your breath, and then and like you said with the senses, you're touching your hand and breathing. I think that's great. I'm glad I asked you the last question.
Yeah.
Like a quick tip. Anyway, Justine, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on. All your information is in the show notes. So if anyone wants to get in touch, they can get in touch with you there. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Empower Her. I hope today's episode has left you feeling inspired and motivated to make a positive difference in your world. Please follow the podcast and share it with anyone who will find it helpful. Until next time, keep striving for positive change and greatness for all women.